What would you do if the survival of your entire family depended on one terrifying choice: marrying a complete stranger? That was the decision 22-year-old Emily Carter had to make. She had never believed in fairy tales. Not when her mother was on dialysis, her younger brother was kicked out of school for unpaid fees, and her father, once a proud carpenter, was buried under hospital bills. The Carters weren't just poor. They were drowning. And then came him, Alexander Stone. Mysterious. Impossibly rich. Handsome enough to stop time. And for reasons no one understood, he offered Emily something no one else could: a deal. "Marry me," he said, his voice calm, measured, almost chilling, "and your family will never suffer again." Emily stared at him, blinking away tears in a small, rundown diner in upstate New York. He sat across from her like he was discussing weather, not life and death. His dark suit was spotless. His watch probably cost more than her entire neighborhood. But his eyes? They were unreadable. She asked, "Why me? You don't even know me." Alexander's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I know enough." Everyone warned her it was too good to be true. But desperation makes people do irrational things. And Emily, pure-hearted, protective Emily, signed the contract. $1 million wired to her family's account. Immediate medical help for her mother. Tuition reinstated for her brother. Debt erased. In return, 1 year of marriage. No questions asked. No touching. No emotional involvement. Just appearances. It sounded cold. Inhuman even. But Emily told herself it was a transaction. A business arrangement. A sacrifice. Not love. So, why did her heart race every time Alexander walked into a room? Why did she feel like he was always watching her, not in a creepy way, but like he was waiting for something? One night, she saw him staring at an old photo in his study. It was of a woman who looked eerily like her. Same green eyes. Same soft smile. But she was older. And the photo was cracked, like someone had gripped it too tightly in pain. "Who is she?" Emily asked quietly. Alexander looked at her, startled. Then, for the first time, his calm mask slipped. He simply said, "She's gone," and walked out of the room. From that night on, Emily couldn't sleep. She kept waking up to the feeling of being watched. Lights would flicker in the hallways. Strange calls came in the middle of the night, with no one speaking on the other end. Something was wrong. This wasn't just a marriage of convenience. And Alexander Stone wasn't just a lonely billionaire. He was hiding something. Something deep. Something dangerous. But Emily had already signed her life away. And she was about to discover the man she married might not be who or what he claimed to be. Emily Carter had always been a fighter. Growing up in the crumbling suburbs of Buffalo, New York, she had learned the hard way that dreams didn't come true. They had to be clawed into reality. By the age of 16, she was working 2 jobs. By 19, she was skipping meals to make sure her younger brother, Nathan, had enough to eat. And now, at 22, she was someone's wife. But not just anyone's. Alexander Stone, CEO of Stone Enterprises. Worth over $4.6 billion. A man so elusive that the media called him the ghost billionaire. He had no public relationships, no scandals, and no appearances at galas or social events, until now. Their wedding wasn't in a church or on a tropical island. It was held in a private room in a Manhattan courthouse. No guests. No vows. Just a cold signature on a government form, witnessed by a stony-faced attorney named Mr. Pierce. He handed Emily a diamond ring the size of a hazelnut, slipped it on her trembling finger, and said, "From this moment forward, we're married. You will live at my estate. You will act like my wife in public. And you will never ask about my past. Do we understand each other?" Emily nodded. She didn't trust him. But she needed him. The next day, she moved into his estate, if you could even call it that. It was more like a fortress. A 16-bedroom mansion nestled deep in the forests of Connecticut, surrounded by security gates, cameras, and silence. Too much silence. No staff. No housekeepers. Just Alexander and her. Each room was immaculate, but lifeless. No family portraits. No personal belongings. It felt like a museum built to mimic a home, but never meant to be lived in. And then there was the West Wing. It was strictly off-limits. Emily discovered that on day 3, when she wandered down the hallway looking for a Wi-Fi signal and was intercepted by Alexander's voice echoing through the intercom. "Turn around, Emily." Her heart stopped. She hadn't even seen a camera. "I told you. The West Wing is private." She returned to her room, shaken. That night, she searched the house for any sign of life. Staff, photos, clutter. Nothing. Even the kitchen looked like it had never been used. Alexander only appeared during dinner, dressed in perfect suits, his hair always neat, his manner distant but polite. He would ask her how her day was, then vanish into his study for hours. One evening, over camelot salmon and risotto, she asked softly, "Why did you choose me?" He looked up, and for a moment she saw it. A flicker of emotion. Something haunted. But he quickly masked it. "Because you needed me." "That's not a real answer." "No," he said coldly. "But it's the only one you'll get for now." Emily started noticing strange details. A locked drawer in his study filled with old newspaper clippings, most with headlines blacked out. A file marked Project A13 in the basement that vanished the next day. And every night at exactly 3:07 a.m., she would hear footsteps outside her room, slow, heavy, deliberate. Once, she opened the door to catch whoever it was, but the hallway was empty. She wasn't sleeping anymore. She wasn't eating. And she definitely wasn't feeling like a newlywed. Then came the letter. A plain white envelope left under her pillow. No return address. No stamps. Inside was one line, handwritten in blue ink. "You are not the first." Emily's blood ran cold. She ran to confront Alexander, shaking with fear. "What does this mean? Who wrote this?" He looked at her like he didn't recognize her. Then, with a calmness that felt more terrifying than rage, he said, "You agreed to stay 1 year. You don't ask questions. And you never leave." Her hands trembled as she clenched the paper. "This isn't marriage. This is a prison." He stood, towering over her. "Then why does it feel familiar to you?" And with that, he left the room, leaving her with a letter, a locked wing, and a terrifying realization. There was more to this marriage than she signed up for. And deep inside this mansion, something was watching her. Emily couldn't sleep anymore. The echoing footsteps. The shadows that moved on their own. The cold whispers in the hall at night, always just outside her door. She was losing her mind. Or someone wanted her to think so. But that letter, "You are not the first," had shifted everything. She started looking for evidence. Quietly, cautiously. She knew Alexander watched everything. Every move she made. Every door she opened. But she had no choice. One morning, while Alexander was out at a business meeting, Emily broke into the study again. Behind a bookshelf, she found it. A hidden compartment. Inside were photos. Dozens of them. All of women. Different women. Different timelines. Different locations. But they all had one thing in common. They all looked like her. Same face shape. Same eye color. Same timid smile. All posed beside Alexander. All wearing the same diamond ring he had given her. Her hands shook as she flipped through them. One was labeled, Catherine, 2004. Another, Elena, 2011. And then the most recent one, Rachel, 2018. Emily felt her breath catch. Rachel's eyes were exactly like hers. She ran to the mansion's library and began digging. If these women existed, there had to be records. And what she found chilled her to the bone. Catherine Moore, reported missing in 2005. Case unsolved. Elena Brooks, died in a house fire. Body never found. Rachel Turner, declared legally dead after vanishing from her apartment in Brooklyn. All within a year of marrying wealthy, reclusive men who were never publicly named. She confronted Alexander that night. He didn't deny it. Instead, he calmly poured himself a drink and said, "I was hoping you'd be smarter than the rest." Emily backed away. "What are you talking about?"
Who were they?
What did you do to them? His eyes darkened. You think this is about money? That I just plucked you out of poverty for some fairy tale marriage? He laughed, but there was no joy in it. I chose you, Emily, because you've lived this before. Her heart pounded. What? You aren't just similar to them. You are them. Fragments. Echoes. Recycled timelines. She shook her head. You're insane. He leaned in close, voice like a whisper. I've been trying to fix what broke. Every 7 years, it resets. The same soul, the same face, the same pain. And every time you forget. He pulled out a folder and threw it on the table. Inside was a medical report. Her own. Except dated 10 years in the future. This is impossible, she whispered. It's not. You're part of a project, Emily. A very old one. Then he opened a drawer and handed her a newspaper clipping. Headline: Local scientist vanishes after breakthrough in temporal cloning. Underneath, a photo of a young man. Dr. Alexander Gray. Emily's jaw dropped. It was him. Younger, without the cold edge. But it was definitely Alexander. You're not just rich, she whispered. I'm the only one left who remembers the original version of you. The real you died 20 years ago, in a lab accident. I've been trying to bring you back ever since. Every version is incomplete. Until you. She stumbled back. You're saying, I'm not me. You're the closest I've come. The only one who's stayed alive past the 6-month mark. The only one who started remembering. Tears welled up in her eyes. This isn't real. This is a nightmare. I know, he said, voice finally breaking. I've lived it hundreds of times. Emily ran. Down the stairs. Past the dining room. Into the West Wing. This time, the doors were open. Inside, she found a lab. Not a metaphorical one. A literal, glowing, sterile laboratory with machines she didn't understand and tanks filled with fluid. Inside one of them floated a body.
Her body.
Identical.
Pale.
Eyes closed. Hair floating like seaweed. She screamed. Alexander appeared behind her. It's not what you think. She turned and slapped him. What am I? He looked at her with something she couldn't place.
Guilt. Pain. Hope.
You're the only one who ever asked that. Suddenly, alarms blared. The machines hissed. One of the tanks began to rupture. Lights flashed. The floor shook. Sparks flew from the panels. Alexander grabbed her hand. We have to get out.
Now.
She yanked away.
No.
Not until you tell me the truth. The whole truth. And he did. He told her about the lab accident in 2003 when he and his wife, the real Emily, were working on a prototype that could capture consciousness. She had died during a test, her body unrecoverable. But her data, the scan of her mind, remained. Alexander spent the next 20 years building a way to bring her back. Clone after clone. Personality reconstruction. Memory implantation. He tried everything. Some versions lasted a few days. Some became violent. Others simply didn't wake up. Until this Emily. The one who fought. Who asked questions. Who felt real. But every time she got too close to the truth, something broke. Reality bent. Time fractured. And it was happening again. Emily stared at the tank. Her eyes wide. Her chest heaving. So what now? She asked. Do I go back in? Do you reset me again? Alexander stepped closer.
No.
This time you choose. She looked down at her hands. They were trembling. But for the first time since the day she signed that contract, she finally knew who she was. Or did she? Emily stood frozen in the lab as the alarm lights strobed red across the white tiles. Machines hissed. Electrical panels sparked. One of the tanks had cracked down the middle, its fluid leaking in thick, glowing streams across the floor. Inside the tank, her own eyes stared back at her, unblinking. This is wrong, she said, her voice cracking. This isn't just science. This is playing God. Alexander stepped forward, his face illuminated by flickering monitors. I didn't want this to happen. Not like this. You made it happen, she snapped, backing away. You built a prison and called it love. Emily, you don't understand. Stop calling me that. You don't even know who I am. That's when another voice spoke. A soft, female voice over the intercom. It wasn't a recording. It was a person. Subject number 9 is unstable. Containment breach detected. Core collapse in 11 minutes. Emily looked up at the speakers in shock. Who is that? Alexander hesitated. The AI system. She's integrated with all experimental subjects. She manages the memory imprints. But the voice responded directly. Incorrect. I am not an assistant. I am the original. Emily's mouth fell open. The original? The voice continued. The original consciousness of Emily Gray. Uploaded during Phase 1. You are version 27. The most complete. But you are still the copy. No, Emily whispered.
No.
That can't be true. I have memories. Feelings. You have fragments, said the voice gently. And you've grown beyond me. But you must understand. If this facility collapses, we all cease to exist. Alexander looked desperate now. There's still time. We can upload you. Merge the fragments. Combine the AI and your body. Create a permanent version. One that doesn't deteriorate. You want to merge me with a machine? You're already half digital, the voice replied. That's why the others failed. They rejected the truth. Emily's knees buckled as she leaned against a table. So, I'm not real. I was never real. Alexander knelt in front of her. You're real to me. You've always been real to me. I gave up everything, my research, my career, my life, to bring you back. But what if I don't want to come back? Her voice trembled. He paused. Then we both die when this place goes dark. Suddenly, another siren screamed. A robotic arm jerked to life and dropped a scalpel. Sparks flew. Fire ignited along a corner wall. The voice came again, louder now. 10 minutes until total system collapse. Power grid is failing. Emergency core detachment in process. Emily turned and ran out of the lab, her feet pounding the steel corridors. She had no idea where she was going, but something inside her, maybe those fragments, was guiding her. She passed hallways filled with blacked-out security monitors, past rooms with strange pods. Some of them had failed versions of herself, frozen in time. Some half-formed. Others looked like they had screamed before their systems shut down. It was a graveyard. A twisted memorial of everything he had done to recreate her. She fell to her knees in a hallway, gasping, trembling. Was she the lucky one? Or just the longest surviving mistake? Alexander caught up to her, panting. Emily, please. We can still make it to the emergency core. It's a clean slate. No more resets. You'll wake up with everything. All the lives. All the pain. All of you. And what about you? He hesitated. I don't make it through. But you will. Her head snapped toward him. So you finally admit it.
You don't love me.
You love your idea of me. He looked gutted. I loved the real you. And then I loved every version that reminded me of her. But you're not a copy. You're a choice. One she never made. You became something else. The voice interrupted again. Core collapse in 7 minutes. Final override protocols available. Choose, upload or shut down. Emily stood up, trembling. The room around her shook again as another tank exploded behind them. She looked at the screen, flashing red. 2 buttons. Upload, merge AI consciousness with host body. Shut down, terminate all remaining data and collapse core. She turned to Alexander. What do you want me to do? He didn't answer. He just looked at her, with tears in his eyes, and whispered, Be free. Then he stepped back, into the flames creeping down the hallway, and disappeared. Emily turned to the panel, tears streaming down her cheeks. Upload or shut down. Her hand hovered over both.
Who am I?
The voice echoed one last time, gently. You are Emily. The first and the last. You are not a copy. You are the culmination. Her hand slammed a button. Everything went white. Not a blinding light, but silence. Stillness. Then breath. Emily gasped and opened her eyes. She was lying in a field. Grass under her palms. Wind brushing across her face. A sky so blue it looked painted by angels. No fire. No alarms. No steel walls. No tanks filled with failed versions of herself. Just peace. She sat up slowly, unsure if it was real. Then she heard a voice, familiar, calm, but no longer mechanical. You made the choice. It was her voice. But it came from within her. The upload had worked. The original Emily's consciousness, the one preserved in cold code for years, had merged with the living, breathing body Alexander had saved. They were one. Whole. For the first time, memories flooded in like a broken dam. Childhood moments. First kisses. Laughter.
Fear.
The accident. The darkness. The waking. The fragments. The rebirth. She remembered everything. And it was overwhelming. But she was no longer confused. No longer afraid. She knew who she was now. Not a clone. Not a shadow. Not someone else's dream. She was Emily Gray. Entire. Reconstructed by love, yes, but reborn by choice. A soft breeze carried the scent of lavender. Somewhere nearby, a river babbled over stones. Was this the real world? Or just the final simulation? It didn't matter. She stood up. Because for the first time in her many lives, she wasn't running. She was becoming. Somewhere deep inside, a final message from Alexander whispered, like a memory embedded in the code of her soul. I didn't just build you to bring you back. I built you to move forward. She whispered back, voice steady. Thank you. For everything. Even the pain. A white butterfly floated past her. She followed it, not because she had to, but because she chose to. She was done being someone's project. Done being someone's savior. Now she would write her own story. Now it's your turn. What would you have chosen? Would you have trusted the man who rebuilt you? Or pressed shutdown, erasing every trace of what came before? Was Alexander a madman? Or a tragic genius driven by grief? Let us know in the comments. Do you think Emily was truly free, or did she just enter another illusion? Don't forget to like this video if it gave you chills. Comment your favorite twist moment. Was it the AI reveal? The clones? The final choice? And subscribe now, because next week's story will make you question everything you think is real. Until then, stay curious, stay questioning, and never stop choosing your own ending.